This video is sponsored by Surfshark, the best VPN on the market. Surfshark is an app or browser extension that allows you to change your location to access websites in other countries and keep you safe from hackers. For example, we here in Ireland can access other countries' Netflix libraries, streaming services such as DAZN in Spain for those all-important Premier League games. Surfshark keeps you safe and private by protecting everything you do online. When your device connects to the internet, all that information is, in a way, blurred out. Surfshark is particularly useful for keeping you safe if you use public Wi-Fi, such as a college or a cafe. Surfshark allows you to use one subscription on unlimited devices, meaning that you can even share an account with friends and family. On top of this, Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you don't like it, you can even get your money back. Our sign-up offer gives you Surfshark VPN for just over €2 per month and up to 4 months free. Why not scan the QR code on screen or use the link in the description to take advantage of this offer. What is up, my friends? You are very welcome along to Monday night's Late Night Agenda. It's a brand new week and hopefully the Reds have turned over a new leaf and can get back to winning ways. We know it's PSV Eindhoven coming to Anfield on Wednesday night for a Champions League game. Then it's a trip down to London to take on West Ham. Tonight, we're going to be saying what the media have been saying about the managerial situation. We're going to be discussing Virgil van Dijk a little bit. We're going to be talking about Marc Guehi and how one journalist thinks that he has pretty much agreed to move to Liverpool. We'll talk about some crazy links as well to João Neves from Paris Saint-Germain. We'll talk about some other mad bits and pieces, including Xabi Alonso could be about to be fired at Real Madrid, according to some reports. So we'll talk about that and ask, is there a possibility that Xabi Alonso maybe succeeds on it if things don't turn around? That and lots more over the course of the next 90 minutes or so. It is your show, so do let me know what you'd like to discuss and I will do my best to get to it. Right, there's a lot to get through. An awful lot to get through today, folks. Let's start off with some of your comments to get going. So I've seen a mixture actually in the chat, and I always like to have a little peruse of the chat before we start the show. So there's mixtures from some people saying no to Xabi Alonso, some people saying that they think it's too soon for Arne to be fired. I understand it. You know, I will give you my view on all of these things, but I'm not going to jump down your throat for having a different view than me. So let's talk about it again tonight. The noises coming out of Anfield certainly seem to be that Arne's under no pressure. But then again, I can show you newspaper clips saying the same about Brendan Rodgers, and he eventually got fired. But I've also got to start by saying, look, we all want Liverpool to do well. We all want Arne to succeed. But we can't just bury our heads in the sand if we don't see a pickup in form and performances as well over the next couple of games. Right, so let's start off with a bit of mad news that Graham Bailey said. FSG have no plans to replace Arne Slot as head coach despite a terrible run of form. Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes, who run football operations at Anfield, remain firmly behind the Dutchman. Of course they would. They hired him. You know, I'm wondering about this, by the way. At what point do Edwards and Hughes feel, shit, we might have made a mistake? Because at this point, I'm very confused. I'm very confused as to how it's gotten to this point, and I'm very confused to what the owners, Hughes, Edwards, and others may be seeing that makes them feel like this is going to turn. Because there's lots of positive talk, but there's not really many signs of it turning. You know, we thought this weekend, for instance, was going to give us a good chance to start putting wins together. Forest at home in a relegation battle. Nope, they were able to get past us with relative ease. So tonight I'm going to ask, how delusional are we all being? Or are you guys right in people saying that it is too early? It is a very personal choice as a fan. Of course, for the owners, their choice is the only one that matters. But for us fans, I understand it if we all have a difference of opinion. You know, some people think he earned the season. I get that. I respect it. But, you know, I just think differently at this point. There was one more thing about Michael Edwards I wanted to just quickly go through before we move on to talking about BARCOLA and a few other bits and pieces. So there was something today that caught my eye. It said Ajax are considering FSG CEO of football Michael Edwards for the vacant technical director role. Really? I can't see Michael Edwards leaving Liverpool or FSG's footballing family to go and become the sporting director or technical director at Ajax. He's probably in a bigger job now, truth be told. So I see that one has been a bit optimistic from the Dutch side's perspective, but you never know. Stranger things have happened. Right, so let's talk about Alonso and let's give some perspective on where we're at with this situation. Basically, Madrid have to make a choice. Madrid have to make a choice between a manager who's trying to implement standards at the club and some accountability, or prima donna players who don't want to be told what to do by a coach. So this report from George C. Peacon, I believe of The Athletic, said multiple Real Madrid players now want Xabi Alonso fired. Their relationship with the coach is broken. Some important executives now believe it's necessary to fire him. Already. Only in the door. And they're not firing him because performances haven't been good enough. They're top of the league by a point. They're firing him potentially because players want him out. It is literally the epitome of player power. And this is from Madrid, a club who talk to the rest of the world about respect. This is absolutely comical, in my opinion. I want to go in a little bit deeper, though, because Mario Cartagena, who is, of The Athletic, maybe the other gentleman wasn't The Athletic, my apologies if he wasn't, but this gentleman, Mario Cartagena, is of The Athletic, and it said, Vinicius Jr. has informed Madrid president Florentino Perez that he does not intend to renew his contract at Real Madrid while his relationship with Xabi Alonso remains difficult. Talks over an extension are officially stalled. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. The whole situation. But would you take Xabi Alonso? That's the question that I'm going to ask you first of all tonight. So, one sec. Right, so if Arne leaves, would you want Alonso? We'll start off with that one tonight. Look, I think, at least for me, Klopp would be the dream. Again, he just would. But I can't see that one happening. I just can't see it happening. The downsides of Alonso, I guess, might not actually be a downside. This would normally be the point in the conversation where I'd say, with Alonso, you've got to worry about a system change. But actually, ironically, I think the system change might actually work with the player personnel that we have. We do need to bring in another couple of centre-backs as an example. But I do think if you're looking at a man who plays a wing-back system, we have players who could absolutely play in that system. In fact, Frimpong, of course, did play in the system. We know that he would certainly be able to come in and get a tune out of Florian Wirtz and know how to play and where to play Florian Wirtz. So there are lots of things that actually make me think it's probably less scary now for the club than it would have been when we were going from a Jurgen Klopp system, if that makes any sense. Because I actually think the personnel that we've brought in and the players we have would lend itself to a system that plays with a 3 or a 5 at the back, just don't have the centre-back cover. Accidentally selected yes, but I'd love to see somebody like Fabregas or Nagelsmann. I get a feeling personally that you're going to see Cesc Fabregas either at Chelsea or Barcelona at some point when he leaves Como, because he's clearly playing some good football over there. I think they won, was it 5-1 or something crazy today as well. So yeah, he's definitely catching people's eye. Shrimpy said Edwards left as he didn't want to work with Klopp with too much power, and he's the boss of the person whose job it is to appoint a new coach. Klopp ain't happening. I don't think it's happening either. That's why I said at the start of it, I just don't think it's realistic. But I take Klopp in a heartbeat. In fact, if you're going to ask me would I take Klopp over Edwards, yes, I would. But that's just me, and like I said, I don't think it's a realistic possibility. Although the bookies would have him do have him as the favourite if Arne was to go at 2-1, but that's not really saying much. Alonso would play favourites over workers. No, he wouldn't. He's doing the exact opposite of that at Real Madrid, and that's what seemingly is getting him in trouble. By not picking favourites or not picking fan favourites, by actually picking people who want to put in a shift. So, look, I never understood why he took the Madrid job. I will never understand why anybody takes that job, because it's a thankless task. No matter what you do, it's never going to be good enough, and within 2 to 3 years, you're gone anyway. It's it's a job. I don't know if people just want it on their CV or for the experience, but it's a thankless task, and so many great managers have been so shoddily treated over there. So while we're talking about Madrid, let me just bring you something that Ben Jacobs said. A22 Sports, the promoters of the European Super League, have initiated a compulsory mediation process with UEFA, which is required under Spanish law before seeking compensation for damages. The only appropriate step going forward is to seek compensation for the damages suffered as a result of UEFA's ongoing illegal behaviour. A22 has also written to UEFA demanding a pre-authorisation of its so-called Unify League within 8 weeks. So this is the Super League crowd, and they're wanting compensation. If I'm UEFA at this point, honestly, I'm telling them to crack on. Go ahead, start your Super League, work away, because no one's going to join it at this point. You've got your Real Madrids, of course, who just want more money for themselves. You've got a couple of other clubs, but ultimately, if you don't have the English clubs in the competition, it's going to fail, and it's going to fail miserably. So if I'm Chefferin and I'm UEFA, I'm saying, crack on, boys. You crack on with your bullshit Super League there and see how many clubs you actually get signed up, because the whole thing seems doomed to failure. It always has and it always will, but they're still banging around looking for compensation for what? The money they pissed up against the wall? Always felt weird to me, but like I said, it's not going to get off the ground. It just isn't. If no English clubs are involved in it, it's going nowhere. And the English clubs have signed up to say they can't be involved in it. So the whole thing's doomed to failure. Harry said, still got faith in Slot. See it till the end. So on that, right, on the whether you do or don't back Arne Slot, and I've noticed that there are some people in the chat who do. And what for those people, here's what I would ask. What is it that you see at the minute that gives you the faith that Arne will turn it round? And I ask this as a sincere question, not as a condescending one, because I can't for the life of me think of anything. I can't see an identity. I don't see a progression. I don't see a way of knitting in the new players. I don't see the players putting in a shift for him anymore. There's so many things in the negative column that I just don't see it. I just don't see what others might be seeing other than thinking he deserves more time because of winning the league. And if that's the case, my argument is, do we have standards or not? You know, do we have standards or not? You can't stink the gaff up, go through this incredible run of terrible results that leave us 11th in the table, and then talk banging on about standards. We either have them as a club or we don't. You know, and if you see something that makes you think, okay, there are signs it's turning, fair enough. Absolutely love to hear from you. But I just, other than vibes, I mean, it's not looking likely, is it? We've had so many stop-starts with international breaks, so many chances for the manager to reset and go again, and it just ain't working. We saw it against Madrid and Villa. He needs to go back to that formula. Yeah, so we won 2 games and then lost 3-0 back-to-back. So, if anything, you're actually making my argument better. Because he had something that was working and then intentionally tore it up to go again with something else that absolutely doesn't work and hasn't worked. I don't know, lads. I don't see how we can rescue it at this point. I think even if he does win a few games, if there's another slide of 2 or 3 losses, it'll just come up again. The media pressure will start again. And you've got people like Gary Neville trying to literally have his cake and eat it. Said no standards at the club anymore. It's shambolic. The manager doesn't know what he's doing. He needs to change formations. He needs to do everything. But then goes on to say talk of firing him is ridiculous. Why? You've literally laid out the case, Gary, about why he should be fired. But because you don't want to have an awkward moment in a post-match interview or something, you then bottle it by saying talk of him being fired is crazy. No, it's not. It is absolutely not crazy. We've been nowhere near good enough this season. The first time he gets to put his stamp on the team. There are no credible solutions out there. And that's good enough, is it? That's a good enough reason to keep somebody in their job. Because there's no one else out there. Doesn't matter that we're shit. It doesn't matter that we're a laughing stock. No one else out there is a good enough reason. That's again, Tim Pot stuff altogether, mate. It really is. Alonso was manager. Stevie G is assistant manager. What do you think, Craig? 2 of our best midfielders together in the dugout. I don't think we need Stevie G in that regard. If you were going to look at Alonso, just go with Alonso. I don't think he needs Stevie G there alongside him. That would be my take on it. But look, this week we have a chance, right, with two games that are very winnable. Very winnable. A home on Wednesday night against PSV Eindhoven, and then away against a struggling West Ham who are low in confidence on Sunday. Anything less than two very convincing victories, and again, so I'm hoping for 2 wins. I want 2 wins, and I want to make it clear, I want Arna to succeed. But I have to see, talk about what I see week in and week out, and I'm not seeing it as much as I'd love to. Right, more of your comments. Let's go. I will say he should leave after the January transfer window if things don't change, but that would be another chance wasted for us. If you're going to change, let's say you spend money in the January window, and he comes in, it doesn't work, then you've wasted more money on a system for a manager. Although to be fair, if you were to just bring in Marc Guehi or something, then that would work, whatever system. Karis is saying Salah only speaks when he gets man of the match or when he wants a new contract. Look, I've said something similar as well. I've seen something similar as well. Like, I think Salah's great until he needs something or something isn't going his way, and then it becomes a problem. But again, everything's a problem at the minute because nothing's going right for us. What about Zidane? I fully think he's taken the French national team job after the World Cup, and I just don't think he'd be a good fit for Liverpool either. Getting Semenyo in January under the current circumstances is also risky. Well, it's even more risky if you were to listen to Florian Plettenberg. I shit you not. I'm not even joking about this. Professional journalist Florian Plettenberg said that Liverpool are looking at signing Antoine Semenyo in January, despite the fact that he'll be at the AFCON. I swear to God he said it. Now, I'm not a professional journalist, and I know he's not going to the AFCON because Ghana didn't qualify. And he posted it. He posted that Liverpool are in for Semenyo, even though he's going to the AFCON with Ghana. Professional Sky Sports Germany journalist there, ladies and gentlemen. Top stuff, Florian. You're very believable, mate. You keep doing you. I'm not making it up, by the way. I'm not making it up. Have a search. It's there. Lucas said, I really like the idea of us playing a back 3 to 5, and thank God Craig can see the potential in that. We got the players, just need more centre backs. I'd love that back 3, Alonso with us or Glasner. I agree on the formation thing, and I agree as yourself as well that we need 2 more centre backs minimum to be able to do that. And on the centre backs, actually, let's start talking about Deo Upamecano, the first one, because this piece from Christian Falk said that Deo Upamecano appears to have ruled out a move to Liverpool. Now, I'll wait a minute while you all go get your handkerchiefs and start crying at the sad news that a defender that none of us wanted and none of us ever wanted doesn't want to come to Liverpool. I'll give you all a minute there, because if you're at like me, I broke down in tears earlier on. Even the dog came in to lick my face while I was on the ground. I was inconsolable at the idea of a defender I don't want not coming to the club. So, I hope you're all okay. If the Bayern Munich defender does leave Germany in the summer, he wants to go to Real Madrid or Paris Saint-Germain, apparently. But look, our loss is their gain. Now, talking about gain, Christian Falk also said Crystal Palace defender Marc Guehi is very close to signing for Liverpool. We'll take that. I'll take that, Christian. Thank you very much. Like I said to you guys last week, my information was that he'd given Liverpool his word to sign. I don't know if it's going to be January, and I hope it is, because we really, really need to. But there was another story that I think it was a Christian Falk? No, it was John Cross of the Mirror. And he said that Liverpool will have to break the bank in January to sign Marc Guehi. Will we? Really? How's that, John? How are we going to have to break the bank to sign a player in January? Break the bank by spending £25 million? Is that now classed as breaking the bank? because he then goes on to talk about Real Madrid, Barcelona, and all these other options, even though they've ruled out a move for Marc Guehi, especially Real Madrid, because of his wage demands. Those wage demands that really mean he's given his word to Liverpool, but we'll stick with the wage demands because that makes Madrid feel better. So we'll go with that. But I don't understand how we're breaking the bank. It's crazy. Just silliness. Can Alonso join Liverpool as a manager? Well, what do you mean, can he? If Madrid fire him, then he can go and join anybody, of course. And look, somebody said to me earlier on, and this isn't inside information, this was just a thought process somebody had. They asked, is it possible that the owners might be waiting to see what does happen there and see if Madrid do fire Alonso? I couldn't answer that question, but I could see a world where it's at least not unfathomable. Hi Craig, Regis here. I think the most worrying thing is that Liverpool's playing without an identity. Regis, dude, you're preaching to the choir, my friend. That's the one thing, no matter which side of this we're on, by the way, and I respect people that want a manager in. I'm not going to have any pops at you. But the one thing I think we'd all agree with, whatever side of this debate we're on, is we are playing without an identity, as Regis mentioned. And it's something that's come up in conversation every time we talk on here over the last few months. We don't have that identity. And that's kind of worrying now, because we're, 16, 17 months into the manager's tenure, and we've won a league title, and now we're talking about having no identity. It's a bit weird, isn't it? And like, I don't know if you guys watched the podcast that we recorded yesterday, but as I mentioned, as we go through the podcast, you can almost see it dawning on Chris that there are so many small little things that are all starting to come together to form a bigger problem. And you can brush these things off maybe individually, one by one, bit by bit, but they do become a bigger problem when they all culminate together. And right now, I'm seeing a way more negatives than positives, as much as I'd love to see some positives. What's this one? So, Xabi Alonso's position at Real Madrid is looking increasingly precarious, said Independent. But according to our sources, Alonso is ready to step into the Anfield hot seat if Liverpool comes calling. Michael Edwards, Liverpool's chief executive, has long admired Alonso and even considered him as top choice to replace Jurgen Klopp. Xabi Alonso rejected Liverpool for the Madrid job. No, he didn't, because he wasn't offered a Liverpool job. But anyway, we go on. Arne Slot has until January to turn around Liverpool's dismal form, but if things don't improve, we might see Alonso making a dramatic switch back to the Premier League as manager this time. We understand that Real Madrid could turn to Zinedine Zidane as a temporary manager should Alonso exit. Interesting. I don't understand this putting in a fixed date thing to say if he doesn't do it by X or Y, because at the moment we're in the midst of a historical collapse. You don't need me to run through the numbers every day. It's getting boring saying the same things, but we are where we are, which is bottom half of the Premier League, defending a title, out of the League Cup because the manager threw the competition because he didn't want to exhaust the poor players, even though we were promised that wouldn't be a problem this season because of the transfer window we were having. Stevie Boy said, can Bozo the Clown stop playing our two midfielders in defence and it's time for a new right back? Bradley's body doesn't hold up. Look, I am a huge advocate for Conor Bradley, Stevie Boy, a huge advocate. But even I am having to say he's probably one or two more injuries away from me saying this is a big, big problem for Conor Bradley. Because when he's fit, if he could have a run of games, I truly have no doubts that he would be fine in that position. Absolutely grand. But I can't argue about the injuries, mate. I can't, because you're right. And even as somebody who admires him massively and has invested quite a few bob to buy this painting, I can't deny his injuries now are becoming not just a little problem, a big problem, a big problem. Soboslai, Hecky, Verts, front three makes me excited. I don't want Szoboszlai near the front three, to be honest. No, I want my front three to be Wirtz in behind Ekitike and Isak. That's the way I want my front three looking. Jury said, I'd love Guevara Reed. So I'd seen him linked, mate, with Manchester City recently. Don't know if it's progressed or anything, but I had seen City linked with a move for him, the Feyenoord right back. Why not just give Calvin Ramsey a go? I don't think Stephen Calvin Ramsey's available for the Champions League game, if I'm not mistaken. Me and Connor tried to figure this out earlier on, and we don't think he is. We think he's a little bit too old for the underage players by 6 months, and I don't think he's on the B list, so I don't think he's available as an option. But in the league, I would prefer that than shoehorning Szoboszlai in. Now, the preview for the PSV Eindhoven game is coming out at 10:45 tonight. It's already recorded and ready to go. I've made some changes to my team in it because doing anything else would be insanity at this point. Firstly, one little spoiler, Canada ain't in the team, and there's no fucking way he should be in the team. Not a chance. 3-4-2-1 formation is the front three. Forgot to say. Look, as long as Szoboszlai is in a 10 position, which I think he is in the way you've mentioned it, no props. I just couldn't have him, up top in a front three or as a second striker or something. But if it was like, say, him and Isak in behind Ekitike, or him and Wirtz, in behind Ekitike, yeah, I could get on board with that. Haley said, I want a manager that knows what he's doing. I want passion for my manager. I want the team to fight for the shirt on their backs. They should be all no-brainers, Haley, shouldn't they? I'd agree. Like, everything you've said, I can't argue with, mate, but they should be all no-brainers. James Hart, how are we, James? Said, my weekends are rubbish at the moment. Football is what I look forward to. The way Pool are, it's shy. Mate, you're not alone in that one. It's difficult. It's really difficult because you're looking forward to these games, and now we're coming into what is normally the most exciting time of the year for us, right? This run from November all the way through to March with no international breaks, pretty much back-to-back 2 games a week. And it's where the seasons are really shaped. And we're going into it not just in really bad form, but, no fit and available first team right back, a young centre back who's out for the whole season. It's just it's not being great for lots of reasons. Alisson coming back from an injury, and yeah, I'm worried because we don't have the rotational options at centre back enough. And that, I fear, is going to lead to more injuries. And more injuries, of course, will lead to bigger problems. So I just hope we can keep people fit between now and the January market at least. Right, I want to go through some more news for you guys, if that's okay, and then we'll check back in on our poll. So here's Liverpool's next 5 games. November 26th, we take on PSV Eindhoven, so that's Wednesday. 30th, which is Sunday, we're away to West Ham in the Premier League. December the 3rd, we're at home to Sunderland in the Prem. December the 6th, away to Leeds in the Prem. And then December the 9th, away against Inter Milan in the Champions League. So look, up until the Inter Milan away game, there's some pretty winnable games in there. And I'm going to be pretty blunt when I say this. It's 4 wins from the next 4, or he has to be gone. And look, I'm already at the I think he should be gone. But anything less than 4 wins from Eindhoven, Sunderland, Leeds and West Ham, if we're winning them, lads. And if we're not, we've got a problem. Right, what else is there? Virgil van Dijk, by the way, has been speaking about being named in FIFA Pro Men's World 11. He said, it's an amazing feeling to be part of the FIFA Pro World 11 again. Recognition from your fellow players is the best recognition I think you can get, because obviously you play against each other, and obviously they go through a lot of things we're going through as well in the current game. Any recognition is great, but together with the PFA Team of the Year, I think those two, when you get voted for by your fellow players, means a lot. It's something that I don't take for granted. Yeah, congrats. Well done, Verge, on being in it. Barlbad said no player was greater than the team. Salah has given Slot that problem. We need a team without Salah, at least one for now. Love Salah, but we need a break. I don't disagree, mate. I don't disagree. And look, I don't think on his own in any way, shape, or form that Salah is the problem for why we're not playing well. But he is a problem. And the situation is a problem. And the manager, in my opinion, I'm not putting words in your mouth here, doesn't have the balls to deal with him. Honestly, I feel that way. He doesn't have the balls to stand up to Salah and hold him to account. And the time to do that was after he won the league. Now, his position's probably been weakened. So, I don't know, man. I just feel like I said a few minutes ago, I'm open to others thinking the Slot should stay. But honestly, from reading the comments so far, I've not seen one comment that really justifies a reason as to why he should stay other than hope or respect for what he did last season. And I don't know, on the respect thing, to some extent I understand it, but also I don't want the season to get away from us completely. Like, it just can't. We need to either see something or do something. Slot has been trying everything, but still refuses to try Keita instead of Salah, said Samat. Yep, and honestly, dude, do you think that's going to change? You know, I think we both know it's not going to, and that in itself is a problem. You know, I keep saying to you guys the same thing. He's making a small squad smaller intentionally, and it winds me up. 60s Red said, only way Salah works, in my opinion, is in the middle. Now he hasn't got the pace on the wing, but in the box, he's a handful. But can you do that after bringing in 200 million quid worth of strikers? 60s Red. You know, I'm not disagreeing hypothetically. I've spoken about Salah moving to the middle last season as well. But when you've just spent 200 million actually, on two centre forwards, over 200 million on two centre forwards, I don't think you can go shoehorning Salah into a forward position, into a centre forward position, excuse me. Neil said, board backing equals sacked after next loss. Well, we went back into the old archives, mate, and we found an article about Brendan Rodgers from 2015. And the article reads, Brendan Rodgers backed by FSG to walk Liverpool through the storm. Brendan Rodgers' job as Liverpool manager was not under threat, with the club having no plans to review his position despite their dismal end to the season that featured only one victory in the last 7 matches. You know what happened next. Bye-bye, Brendan. So, yeah, this whole the club have no plans thing means nothing to me other than the club not wanting to add to the noise that's around Anfield and around Liverpool at the minute. They can't say anything else. Anfield 1234 said, we surely respect, but we can't just continue to give him till December. If we fail, we'll sack him. Respect is there, but for me, that the goodwill's gone now. You know, the goodwill he had for winning the league is gone. Because as others said, there were other factors after that still annoyed me, like the League Cup final. Like how we went out in the Champions League. Like how we ended it limping over the line. And then we started the season with 5 wins on the bounce. And to be fair to all of you guys and every Liverpool fan I know, nobody was convinced by those 5 wins because, you know, we were fortunate in some of them. We let Leeds slip. We're just so far off it defensively. And that's where my biggest concern is. I'll always back the forwards to figure it out. Salah will find some form. Isak will get better. But it's defensively. Defensively, I'm really, really concerned because let's look at the start when we did win those games. I think there was there 3 or 4 games where we'd conceded 2 and been pegged back by 2 goals up as well. So defensively, we're weak as kittens at the minute. And that's a big concern. Like, he needs to address that regardless of anything else. It has to be sorted. And it's not going to be sorted by allowing Canade to take the piss. Like, one report today on Canade, let me read you this out. So this report from Caught Offside, so take it with a pinch of salt, said Liverpool have offered Canade a new deal, but he's yet to respond. I'm Canade and I stunk the gaff up again and genuinely had any intention of staying, I'd have been ringing up on Saturday evening and saying, yeah, I'm taking that contract, thanks very much, send it over, we'll sign it. Because he's been absolutely deplorable recently. And, I don't think that's debatable. Attacking won't get better, attacking patterns are awful. So, maybe I worded it wrong, Rev and I think we have goals in us, mate. He says ironically after 2 back-to-back blanks, but we've never really struggled over time to score goals. But we're defending shockingly, like so soft at the minute. Shakur, how are we, sir? Said one of the only players we can rely on all the time, even when we're playing bad, is Virgil van Dijk. The guy since he joined has been the best centre back, and without him, we would be last. But I have to say, mate, whilst I totally agree with you, Shakur, he's been an absolute unbelievable. I don't think he's been at his best this season. And it could be, of course, because of what's around him. But there's not enough aggression in our defending. It's something we keep coming back to when we discuss this, Shakur, and that stems from the captain for me. Martin said Arna has to be under pressure to keep his job. We've been off it since the League Cup final last season. We won the league because we'd built up a good lead and the chasing pack all had problems. I don't disagree, mate. I've said the same as you. We weren't brilliant at the end of last season at all. Not by a long way. Where have we got? Drew Garrison. How are we, Drew? Said Dom is playing well too. Ekatike as well, but being benched. Dude, Drew, that drove me mental, mate. Looking at that team sheet on Saturday and not seeing Hugo Ekatike's name on it was all kinds of wrong. I don't mind him playing Isak, but you got to have Ekatike on that pitch as well. He's the one new signing that's come in and look like he's getting it, and look like he's up for it, and look like he's excited, and looks like he's confident, and you bench him? I mean, the obvious thing for me here felt like play Isak on Wednesday in the Champions League at Anfield under the lights against PSV Eindhoven, and leave Ekatike to play against in the league game that we played at the weekend against Forest. That was what I was expecting. Give him 20-25 minutes off the bench against Forest and then play him on Wednesday. But the manager went the other way and played 68 minutes of a player just invisible out there on the pitch. And that set the tone. These silly decisions from Arna are only adding to the problem. Will Arna bench Salah for PSV? What do you think, my friend? What do you think? Lee Cole said that was madness benching Hugo. It was. And then we found that stat afterwards that we've won 75% of league games that he started and we've won 0% that he hasn't. And for a club that's supposed to be data driven, that's a pretty fucking blinding stat to ignore, isn't it? That when Hugo plays and starts, we generally 3/4 of the time do well in the league games, and when he doesn't, we're horrendous. Not great. Andy said, I may be naive here, but surely he'll be making some changes for Wednesday after everything and to rotate as well. I'd hope so. Certainly in the preview, mate, I've made, oh God, I can't think of how many changes off the top of my head, but I think it's 3 or 4 in my 11. Jovan, so we don't know how to use Isak. Again, I agree. Unfortunately, mate, I agree. Which is crazy, right? It's crazy. You'd think we'd have patterns of play and an understanding of Isak at this point, but you're right. Every time he's come on, we look like we don't know how to get the ball to him, or what channels to put it into, or what his passing lanes are, or what his movement is. He just looks lost out there. Slot stubbornness is costing us massively. Again, my friend, I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I feel like we're going to end up as fans having this conversation now over and over and over again. Over and over and over again. Every time points are dropped, this is going to come up again. You know, we'll win a game, we'll lose a game, then people will say, but. I don't want the season gone. I don't want European football unattainable for next season, and I don't see any indication yet that he's even getting close to figuring it out. What if Liverpool lose against PSG? Look, I'm already at that. I think he should be gone, mate. If he loses to PSV, that's just a shit show at that point. You can't be losing to PSV in the Champions League at home. That's anything other than thumping them by 3 or 4 is an embarrassment, in all honesty. Like, should be a handy number this game against PSV. And so should West Ham away. So let's wait and see. I hope we get 2 wins. That's the aim. Neil, welcome to Anfield Agenda FC, sir. Thank you. Appreciate you becoming a member. Craig, dropping Salah against PSV is the wrong call. The right call is dropping him against West Ham. So, unless I'm mistaken here, mate, I don't think I said anything about dropping Salah for the game against PSV Eindhoven. In fact, I'm sure I said he'll be playing the game. Slot will absolutely be playing him. So, I haven't indicated that he should or is likely to be dropped for that game. You know, in my team, he's in it. The team that I have for the preview, I have Salah in the team. As much as I agree with you, I think West Ham away is probably a game that we should rest him in. I agree. I feel like Jerome said, I love our signings, but feel like they were being data driven, and sometimes I think they forget football is not baseball. It's not all about numbers. So to be fair to the recruitment team, I don't think it's only data led. Like, I think they use data, like any good recruitment team, as part of an overall process that would include some old fashioned scouting as well. But what has me really confused, I feel like, Jerome, is the Ekitike Isak similarities that apparently showed up in the data, that they were almost carbon copies of each other. Like, Isak was a bit further along, but Ekitike was Isak light. Doesn't look like that on the pitch. They look so far removed from similar players. And I'm not saying that they weren't before they came to Liverpool. Maybe they were. Maybe at Newcastle, his positions were very similar to Ekitike's at Frankfurt. But when they've come to Liverpool, they definitely do not look like similar players the way we're playing anyway. Jason Curry said, honestly, Craig, we'll probably lose to PSV and West Ham will beat us and then we'll get Alonso. I feel like we've had a lot of these conversations over the last couple of months where the goalposts keep getting moved. So we'll say, if this isn't done by then, well, then we should do this. And then that doesn't get done. And then we go, okay, well, I feel bad, so let's go a bit longer. And it is honestly commendable that so many people still want to give him time, because deep down I want him to succeed. But it's starting to feel a bit like banging your head against the brick wall now. That back-to-back 3-0 losses, either side of an international break, won the biggest home defeat in 10 years in the Prem. You know, again, these stats are all there. It's just, it's frustrating. Let's talk about to cheer us up a little bit. Let's have a little visit to Bullshit Island. Get your suntan, get your Factor 50 on. We're off to Bullshit Island with thanks to our friends at facades.net, who say Liverpool are reportedly considering a record £140 million bid for Portugal and Paris Saint-Germain midfielder João Neves. The 21-year-old has been in excellent form this season and is PSG's top goal scorer with 6 goals in 10 games. Sure, that's happening. Definitely going to go in there and drop 140 million on a player they don't want to sell in a team that's just won the European Cup and every trophy there is to win in France. That definitely feels like it's likely. 140 million on the midfielder. Never mind the fact that we need a winger and a central defender, and then maybe we can talk about a midfielder. But again, madness. Another crazy link. This one comes from Fabrice Hawkins, who said, Liverpool have made an advanced approach for PSG winger Bradley Barcola. Do we believe that? I don't. Now, we've been linked with him in the summer. His name was bandied around a little bit in the summer when there was some talk of potentially bringing in a winger. But, all signs are surely pointing to Antoine Semenyo at this point. Carl said, it's the twilight zone. You ask any fan to make their starting 11 based on what we've seen on the pitch. Guaranteed slot picks the ones who leave us scratching our heads. I mean, you're probably not wrong, dude. I think most of us would pick an 11 that would look nothing like the 11 would end up on the pitch by the weekend or by Wednesday night. Right, so we asked you guys, do you want Alonso if Arnold leaves? We're nearly at 2,000 votes, so we'll let it run for a minute or two more. If you haven't voted, do have a vote. We're asking, if Arnold leaves, would you want Alonso? Jovan said, Barcola doesn't know how to finish. I agree, dude. I said the same all summer when we were linked with him. Really talented footballer, but needs 4 or 5 chances to take one. And it'll be a no for me, particularly when we're talking about pretty serious amounts of money involved in it. It just wouldn't be one that I'd be excited about. David Newell said, just try to get Elise or Semenyo. Both know the Prem. Well, there was a report that said we were interested in Elise, but he's not for sale, basically. Even when the dressing room is lost, you still see performances in Europe because it's a shop window, so to speak. Maybe. It's PSV, not PSG. What are you talking about? We're talking about PSG players. I know we're playing PSV, but we're talking about a PSG forward in Barcola. Are you happy with what we've seen Isak's demeanour? I mean, I honestly don't know, is the truth, mate. I don't know how to get a read on that situation because everybody else we've maybe Frimpong aside, another one that I don't think we've seen enough of yet to really know. Yeah, I feel like we'll know more around the Isak situation by Christmas as to, is he looking sharper? Are things starting to work out? Because he's a damn good player, and the only concern I had was the injury concern, which I think was shared by a lot of people. So I think with him, same with Wirtz, it's just a matter of when. Not saying he would move, but if we're going after any player from PSG, that's who I'd want. Who are we talking about here? If it was Barcola, then no for me. I'd much rather have a Kvaratskhelia or João Neves or maybe Vitinha. Semenyo and Guehi first, thank you. Wouldn't say no. Right, let's get to this poll. So we've gone past 2,000 votes. 81% of people said that yes, they would take Xabi Alonso. They'd be very happy with Xabi Alonso. So Sasha Cavalieri has said, Liverpool remain in pole position to sign Marc Guehi. The Premier League champions are the only club truly positioned to recruit a defender as early as this winter. Crystal Palace's asking price would be around £35 million, but he can leave in the summer for free. I can't see Liverpool paying the same fee to Palace that they would have paid in the summer. Surely it would have to be a bit less than 35 million, but I read this on Sky and I pulled a couple of segments out of a piece on Sky about Liverpool's decline that I wanted to read out to you because, again, it kind of backs up what we're all thinking. So this is what they said from the report from the game against Forest. Mohamed Salah started well and quickly faded, which I think we all agree with. Excuse me. Mohamed Salah started well and quickly faded. Federico Chiesa generated more XG value than him and played 68 minutes fewer. Think about this. Think about what I'm saying here. Salah started well and faded. Chiesa generated more XG value than Salah, having played 68 minutes fewer in the game. 68 minutes, over an hour less, and he creates more XG. Alexander Isak was non-existent. By the time he was hooked for Chiesa, he'd lost every one of his 7 duels he contested. Every last motherfucking one. Lost 7 duels. Isak up front. 7. He's the only Liverpool player in the Premier League era to end on the losing side in each of his first 4 starts. Performances will tell you that is for good reason. Then they went on to keep talking about the game, and they said Alexis McAllister fluffed one big chance Liverpool created, which arrived before Forest took the lead and could have easily led to a different outcome. The Anfield crowd were tolerant to a point, but were audibly fed up by the end too. How can a team with 74% share of possession concede enough chances to ship 3 goals? The hosts finished the game with 2 midfielders playing across their defensive line. Perhaps that explains it. There is no doubt that crisis has morphed into catastrophe with no signs of slowing. Slot needs a comprehensive review of failings and a plan to stem the flow before this quickly turns into one of the shoddiest attempts at a title defence in the Premier League has ever seen. Does anybody disagree with any of that? Because I'd love to be able to disagree with it, but it pretty much feels about right with what we'd seen. So Sky can see it, other pundits can see it, you can see it, I can see it. Surely the owners see it. Like, there's not one metric, not one bit of data that suggests this is going in the right direction that I've seen. Not one. It's just shit show after shit show and excuse after excuse. Elsu, how are we this evening, my friend? Said, sign Guehi, give Isak converts time. Confident, mate. I'm really, 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 really hopeful we sign Guehi in January. I think, it's season defining stuff at this point. If you don't get him in January, or a centre-back of his quality, we're in trouble. Slot's too scared to drop Salah, only does it in the Champions League, said Dylan. I don't disagree, Dylan. I don't disagree at all. I wish I did, mate. I'd love to disagree with you, but not because I want to disagree with you personally, but I'd love to think that he isn't scared of him, but, unfortunately, mate, I think he is. Oliver said, Alonso will have that gravitas you're talking about. I know. Absolutely. Like, reading about what's going on at Real Madrid and the fact that player power could get him the sack because he's trying to instill accountability and professionalism. I find that astonishing, Oliver. Like, most chairmen would be over the moon about a manager coming in, trying to get people doing the right things, trying to take, get accountability out of the players. And they want to sack him for prima donnas who want to go to Ibiza after games and not go back and rest or train. Absolute shambles. So yeah, he would have the gravitas, as you mentioned, to walk in and command respect. Especially when you have a club that would give him the backing to go in and get that respect. I'm so surprised, but yet also not surprised at the situation at Madrid. Because if you said to fans, right, if you go into any fan base and say, there's a manager going to come in, and the manager's going to want standards, and the manager's going to accept certain or demand certain things from the players, accountability, professionalism, a good work-life balance. What fan's going to say they don't want that? That they don't want players being held to account, that standards shouldn't be met. I don't know a single fan base that would say no to those things, but somehow it gets you fired in Madrid, maybe? Fuck me. We live in a mad world. What formation style players should you go with? It depends on the manager, Roshi. Like, we don't have the personnel at the minute to play with a back three or a back five because we don't have enough centre backs. I think we're at least two short. So it's some variation of four at the back and whatever other way you want to line up. Whether you want to go narrow and go 4-2-2-2, whether you want to go 4-2-3-1, whether you want to go 4-3-3, whether you want to go 4-4-2. I mean, there's even a world to talk about going to a 4-4-2, in all honesty, with Isak and Ekitike there. But just something. Just show us something that shows that you know this can't go on, Arna, and that it needs to change. Like, we need to see something. James, LFC86, thank you, mate, for becoming a member. Appreciate you. 14 months with us. Who had the say in the summer transfer window? I think they all had an input. But, you know, who signs off on it ultimately? I would say that that's Richard Hughes. But they would have all, of course, had their input. Like, you wouldn't think anybody would want to ram a player down a manager's throat that they don't want. And I've not seen anything to indicate, outside of Chiesa, that any of these players have been brought in, you know, without the manager wanting them. So, yeah, that I'd have to say, you know, Hughes has the final word. Devore said, bring Klopp back. I miss his heavy metal approach. I really just don't think he'd come back, dude. I don't. As much as I'd love him to, I just don't think he'd come back. So here's what Carragher had to say on Sky. Liverpool are a big mess, but I'm not slot out. It's a big mess. I'm not sure how solvable it is because Arna knows more about the team than I do, and he can't quite come up with the answers. Every Liverpool fan is out there scratching their heads, saying the problem is recruitment or players they brought in, the situation around Jota as well. The manager is on the back of them winning the title, wanted his team to be more attacking, better on the eyes, sexier and more goals. Everybody is trying to look the answer, nobody knows. Any manager who loses 6 games out of 7 in the Premier League, even the manager of a promoted team, the heat would come on. That's the nature of the beast, being a manager in the best league in the world. You're the champions and spent a lot of money in the summer. The scrutiny would be even tougher. But I wouldn't be in the slot out camp whatsoever. Why? Why, Cara? That's the fucking thing. You've just put in a whole big word salad there and not given one fucking reason. Not one justifiable reason, Cara, why he shouldn't be fired. Other than he won the league and I'm not in the slot out camp. Why? Because you haven't given us any analysis or any bit of foresight into what he's going to change or what is changing. This blind fucking optimism needs to stop. The manager won the league last year. Yes, he did. But for all the banging on we do as a club about standards, it's mental how when standards need to be actually held, that so many people go missing. Or so many people are afraid to actually speak out and say what needs to be said. What he's overseen this season in the league has been absolutely unacceptable on every goddamn level, especially after you've been given £450 million to fucking make us better. So him and Neville are basically just trying to play both sides of the fence, criticising the manager, rightly, but then coming with the, oh, but they shouldn't be fired. Why? Not one of you have said why they shouldn't be fired. Other than, it's not a Liverpool thing to fire the managers. Is it a Liverpool thing to be mediocre? It's just nonsense. It's just fucking nonsense. Nedge said, Craig, sick of fan forums using Jota excuse. It's 4 months on now. Why can't it be the other way? We fight for Jota, use it as an inspiration to want to win. Do you want the PC answer or do you want me to be honest? Because I can give you the stock PC answer, which doesn't land me in trouble, or I can give you an actual answer from the real world. So, you know, let me know which one you want, because one will get me in trouble, but it's honest, and the other is the usual answer. Did you hear the Cara saying the Salah only talks contract extensions or man of the match awards? I didn't see it, but somebody told me about it earlier on. So, the real answer is it's a fucking excuse. And it's a disgusting excuse. To talk about a man's passing now being a reason for this failure from the manager is pathetic. And it's a disgrace to his memory. And here's why. When we were winning the first 5 games, the whole narrative was around doing it in memory of, doing it for Diogo. And now, when we start to lose a little bit, all of a sudden, that's the easy get out of jail card. And it's fucking low. I'm not trying to say that there aren't people affected by it. But we all have to go to work. We all have to bury our loved ones and families and move on with life. And 4 months after the event is not an excuse for the poor form. Because here's why. If I'm a manager or I'm a CEO or I'm a sporting director and I can see performances are terrible, and you would know from inside the camp if players are suffering, those players should be taken out, given the time and support they need to grieve properly. But you can't just cherry pick this as an excuse just rather than taking some accountability. Because nobody's trying to say, nobody, that there aren't people suffering. But they are very well resourced to help those people. But we're not seeing that. We're not hearing stories of 1 or 2 players who are really suffering, having to take time away. Because I promise you, every fan would be okay with that. We're all human beings. We'd be absolutely fine with that. But what we can't have is this nonsense of an excuse because it's handy and it's easy. That's all that is. It's an excuse and it's unacceptable. That's my take on it. And as I said, I don't know where yous are at with it, but that's me trying to be as sincere and as understanding as possible, because I'm not closing off my mind to the idea of people struggling, but I am when you're not doing nothing about it. Because that's a fucking problem. If you're struggling, like we all do something about it. You're very well resourced. They have grievance counsellors at the training ground, or had them. So I'm sorry, I'm not having that as an excuse. When you can win the first 5 games, when it wasn't an excuse then. Now when things aren't going well, some people want to just roll that out. I find it really fucking disrespectful. I really do. How would Xabi be available? He's doing well now. Yes, but apparently he could be fired, mate. I know it sounds ludicrous, but there's multiple reports coming out of Spain that said the players aren't happy with him because of his demands, and that he's trying to hold them to account and get rid of the party and lifestyle and all these other things. And apparently the bigwigs now are going to come down on the side of the players rather than backing a manager who's trying to implement standards. As mad as that sounds, my friend, that's kind of where we're at with it. And it's nuts. Because he's top of the league by a point. And they're talking about firing him. It's nuts. Nick said, "Hi Craig, what are your thoughts on Graham Souness on Liverpool's form, the back of the Forest result?" I'd seen the piece. I think the Echo spoke with Souness, but I haven't read it, so I don't know what he said, Nick. I hadn't got around to reading that piece yet. So yeah, I'm not sure what exactly he said, to be honest. David, Craig, my friend said there's talk of dropping Canada. Is there anything you heard? Yes, I have. The Gomez talk has been quite a bit over the last 24 hours, but is he going to be at right back, or is he going to be coming in to take Canade's position? I'm not sure. But Canade, look, let me ask. I'll ask you. I'll ask the chat. Should Canade play on Wednesday night? And we'll see what the chat has to say. Would you take Alonso and Trent back? No, look, the Trent thing isn't going to happen for various reasons. One, the transfer fee. There's no world where Liverpool are going to pay a big transfer fee to bring back a player that ran out the door for free, or near enough free. So that one's a non-starter, I think. Stephen said, I've heard so many footballers say that playing is the only time they forget issues in their lives, so they're desperate to play. Exactly. Exactly. That's the escape. And it's the escape for us as fans, right? So as you've said incorrectly about players, same with us. That's our escape. We get to go watch the lads, get behind the lads, and that's our escape from the real world and our problems. Because we all have them. You know, whether they're financial, whether they're family related, whether they're mental health, whether they're physical health. We all have issues in our lives, and we have our escapism through football. And these guys train a few hours a day and go home. And are usually, most of them, occasionally home by lunchtime. And then play a couple of games a week and travel. It's not like they don't have time to deal with grief and stuff like that. I don't know. I just really get wound up by the excuse, because it's just over and over and over again. Every stream I do, every chat I do, it's Craig, but you forgot that the Ogo died. No, I didn't forget. We've spoken about it multiple times, but it is just yet another excuse. Ali lost his dad while scoring a header to help us. Yes, exactly. Exactly. His dad, his flesh and blood, the man who brought him into this world with his mother. So, yes. And I'm not saying that there aren't players who may be struggling. I've explained this so many times. Those players should be given every bit of help and support they need. Sincerely, but it can't be an excuse. Toby Bedford, how are we, Toby? Said, feel like Liverpool have no identity. The press is poor and the attack is slow. Diaz was a big loss. I wanted Mbomo or Semenyo. So Semenyo is a must now. On top of that, you'd have to say to some extent, Darwin is a loss as well. Not in the finishing sense, but in a lot of the other stuff. Let's be fair about it. You know, I was Darwin out and I absolutely believe it was the right thing to sell him. But, you know, you are seeing the physicality of Darwin that we're missing. Same with Diaz, as you rightly pointed out, mate. That hasn't been replaced in the front line yet. There's no real tenacity there. So for me, on PSV on Wednesday, I'd start Rio and Gamo on the left. I just feel that's the perfect time, the perfect game, the perfect venue, the perfect time to give young Rio a chance. To actually start a game, a big game, a meaningful game that we should be winning on the left side, and try to build up his confidence again. Not the garbage minutes that he's getting when the game's gone and he's coming on to just save somebody else's legs. Give him a chance from the start and let's see what the kid can do. Craig, do we really want him to stay at our club with his current attitude? I'm not sure, Chris, mate. Are we talking about Canade? It's a tough one. It's a tough one because there's two ways I look at the Canade situation. It's an easy fix if he signs a new deal. As in, he signs a new deal, that's a centre-back that Liverpool have at the club, that's tied down, and then if you bring in competition, that should hopefully bring up levels. So that's one way of looking at it. The other way is, as you've said, his performances and his head has been all over the place this season. So is he a great loss if he goes? No. But it does mean there's more work for us to do in the transfer market, and we've got to get that right. So if Canade doesn't sign a new deal, I'm really concerned that we bring in Marc Guehi, but we still have to utilise Canade between now and the end of the season. I'd much rather we just found a way to get rid of him in January, if we didn't want to stay, and bring in two centre-backs and put Guehi alongside Virgil straight away. That's what I'd like to see happen. But what I think will happen is he'll run his contract down if he doesn't sign a new one. We'll bring in somebody in January, I hope. And then we still have to hope for no injuries because Canada will be all over the shop again. United lost to 10-man Everton. Look, we can't banter anyone, lads. Respectfully, we can't be bantering anyone. But what that does do now, ladies and gents, is mean that your Liverpool, your defending champions, are 12th in the Premier League table. Fucking 12th. 12th after winning the league. 12th. This isn't after 1 or 2 games. We're 12th in the Premier League table. We're behind Everton. Let that sit. 450 million spent. Premier League champions. Behind Everton. 12th. Don't want to hear the word standards, because you either have them or you don't. You either enforce them or you don't. What's your top 5 wingers in this generation? Oh, mate, honestly, Shakir, I don't have the mental capacity at the moment, dude, to start talking about top 5 wingers of this generation. Because we get into a debate about what's a winger. Was on rear winger as an example. But I'd say there's less now than there was, mate. Gone back maybe 10 years. You know it's bad when we can't banter United or Everton. Or Everton, mate. We can't banter either of them. United lost playing against 10 men when the other team went down to 10 men because, and I'm not winding you up, their own players were fighting with each other. And Idrissa Gana Gueye got sent off for slapping Michael Keane. And United had 75 minutes at home against 10-man Everton. And it was 0-0 at that point. And we can't banter them. We can't. We've no right to be bantering anybody at this moment in time. Shane, how are we, dude? Absolutely shocking. After that, he has to go. Shane's a United fan, as I'm sure you guys know. Regulars will know. I didn't watch the second half, Shane. I watched the first half, mate, before I jumped on the stream. So I didn't watch the second half of your game. And look, I understand where you're coming from. But here's one for you. The gift that keeps on giving, Mr. Rio Ferdinand, who I almost get fed up calling out at this point. But so Rio has said on his Rio Ferdinand Presents podcast, debate. Arne Slot is under significantly less scrutiny than the pressure placed on Ruben Amorim when he was enduring a similar run of results. Rio Ferdinand Presents is out now. Join the debate. Rio, that's a fucking idiotic statement to make, mate. Because one of them, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Rio, but one of them won the Premier League last year in his first year. And even James Pearce said to him, it's almost like one of them won the Premier League in their first season and the other oversaw United's worst league finish for 35 years. Brainless. And what does Ferdinand do? What any teenage boy would do. Puts the fishing rod emoji out. You're not fishing, Rio. It's just shit. Like most of your takes, Rio, it's just shit. Terrible. Your banter's awful. Your football takes are awful. Great player, Rio. I won't go against you on that, dude. You're an incredible player. But this is nonsense. And you know it is. It's not bait. You just shit the bed and you got called on it by a journalist. Admit it, Rio. It wasn't bait. It's just a shit take. Why is it that when a lad scores a goal, he never runs up to celebrate with his keeper? We need more keepers celebrating equality. I don't know, dude. I don't know. I've seen a few keeper celebrations as well, especially when Ali bangs a long diag or something, or one over to one of the players. I've seen some celebrations. I think Guehi is top priority and bench Salah, said JJ Drumming. Thank you, JJ. Appreciate you. So, we're asking, should Canade play on Wednesday night? That's the question that we're asking you guys at the minute. Yeah, 12th in the league is disgraceful, Planet Ball, mate. You're not wrong, my friend. Blizzy Blizz FE said, Craig, we need Grav to start playing 6 again. Yep, and with him being right above the centre backs, we can't risk letting him play up front We need Wharton in January. It was a really strange thing to hear that the manager gave him, I think you guys told me, corrected me yesterday and said it was after the Everton game, that Gravenberch was interviewed and he said the manager's given him more license to get forward. You're the 6. You shouldn't have license to get forward. You're the 6. Your job is to cover, break up play, stop counter-attacks, shield the back 4, let the wing-backs get forward and drop back in. So, yeah, it's a really strange one, particularly when we were so open and conceding so many at the start of the season, which we're still kind of doing. So, yeah, confusing. Like, I want to go back to something Cara said, and I want to just read this out again. Because one part of what he said is right, but then he gets towards the solution and he bottles it, in my opinion. But let's read what Cara said. So he said, the manager, on the back of winning the title, wanted the team to be more attacking, better on the eyes, sexier, and more goals. Everybody's trying to look at the answer nobody knows. So, the manager wants us to play sexy football, score more goals, be more attacking, and be better. And yet we've lost 6 from 7. And scored 0 goals in the last 2 league games and conceded 6. So, we're literally at the very other end of that spectrum. And yeah, Cara gets to the point of going, but I'm not slot out yet. Why? Why? Not one of them, not fucking one of them, have given a single reason as to what Arna's doing to correct the ship. Not one. And until they do, they're all just wafflers. Because they have no reason to say, I want the manager to stay. Other than they don't want to be the guy who calls for the manager's head. Stop running to the halfway line and then passing side to side. Yes, Chris. And getting throw-ins deep in the opponent's half and going back to the goalkeeper with them. Jason Cundy is talking garbage about Liverpool every opportunity. Jason Cundy is a Clint. A massive, a tiny, tiny little Clint. End of. No debate, no conversation. He's an absolute Clint of the highest order. Cheering on Man City against a former side of his, Spurs, at one point as well. Cundy is a gobby little Clint. Simple as that. Craig, if Leone wasn't injured after seeing his masterclass at the start of the season, would you have him starting every game? I'd certainly have given him a lot more game time at this point, dude, yeah. Like, he was so impressive in that display as well against Southampton. Really, you know, I've said this a few times, but he's one of those players that you knew as soon as you looked at him on the pitch that you were getting somebody good. And it was just a matter of how good at that point. So Phil, he's been so unlucky. I really feel for him, and I can't wait to have him back. Itachi said, remember Isak, Verts and Ekatike came here to win the big ones. Now we're 12th. 12th. What's this shit show? I'm losing faith every day. I know, mate. I know. Yeah, look, Itachi, I get it, you know. I sympathise. I empathise. But, like I said, the yes men, the usual suspects who, you know, look, cowards. I'm going to fucking call it like it is. Cowards who are saying, we don't want to, all these things are wrong. All the records are falling, all in the wrong direction. And all these things are wrong, but I'm not slot out. I'm not slot out. Cowards. That's it. Cowards. The lot of them. Because you won't say what you want to say. You can't go all this stuff. This is shit. That's terrible. Form's terrible. Results are terrible. Shape is terrible. Attitude's terrible. Statistics terrible. And then go, but I'm not the manager out. Why? Why are you not the manager out? Why? You won't give a reason other than you don't want to be that guy. Winds me up something fierce. And by the way, it's nights like tonight and statements like the ones I'm making are the reasons you don't see me anywhere. or you don't see me invited onto the fucking overlap fan debate. There's a reason I'm not on there. It's because I'm not a simpleton who just sits there going, yeah, I agree with all of this. No, I'll actually grow a pair and call out the shit, which others won't do. Just bring all the happy clappers and we'll all sit around singing Kumbaya and we won't actually tackle the fucking hard subjects or take it head on. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Craig, would you really take Xabi? He plays a lot different, like. So, in a way, Lucas, I would, because when we brought Arne in, I think we all understood the system thing was very similar, right? But actually, naturally, I think with the way we've spent money in the summer, and you look at the players we brought in the summer, I think now the squad would almost lend itself more to a potential Alonso-type system. So you've got Frimpong in, who's a natural wing-back. Kirkes, who could easily be a natural wing-back, as could Robbo. Bradley the same. Centre-backs were short of numbers, so you need at least a couple more. Then you've got 2 strikers, you've got a couple of 10s. I think it's absolutely doable, mate, the system change if needs be, with a couple more centre-back options. Which, like I said, probably wasn't the case before we did our business in the summer. I think that's only lent itself even more to the possibility of swapping up shape. Craig, Slot has no connection with the team. It doesn't look that way. It doesn't. Unfortunately, it doesn't. Like, it doesn't look like they're all pulling in the same direction. You don't get performances like we've seen on Saturday with players who are actually in it for the manager. You just don't. Hank said, same with Red Men TV, Craig. They're scared of calling out the BS. Look, it's not my place to take shots at Red Men or anybody else. They do their thing and best of luck to them. But there's a reason I have no connections to the club. That's all I can say. Like, again, wish everybody the best. But there's a reason that I'm persona non grata for Liverpool. You know? Because, and I'll tell you this, it's fucking lazy. It's lazy from the club. It's lazy from anyone that sees clips of us and just thinks that we're these mouthy fools who don't actually have a heart. Come watch our channel and then talk to me about a fan channel that actually cares. Because you come and watch our channel, chat with our community and see what we're about, and you'll see that, and I don't mean this to sound arrogant, we're the unspoken voice that fans don't have. We say what most people are thinking deep down. Not all the time. Definitely there are some of my takes that are a bit Marmite and I get it. But on the big things, more often than not, fans are on the similar side to the narrative we're talking about on here. And there's no accident that we've become the world's most watched Liverpool fan channel. That didn't just happen. And it didn't happen because I was given podcasts with Kenny Dalglish, or I was given access to players at the club, or I was brought on fan stages at Champions League finals. No, none of that. It happened because people organically found the channel and found something that they could empathise with, something that they could connect with, and somebody that was saying the things that they felt but aren't being said elsewhere. And the reason for that, my friends, is quite simply because we are actually independent. Not pretending to be independent. We are fucking actually independent. And we're answerable to nobody other than you. And that is how and will be what this channel's about for good. End of. The freedom to do what we do and say what we want to say is more important to me because it means I can be authentic. And if people dig it, cool. If people don't, sound. But I'm not going to be a lackey for anybody and just say things because it makes my life easier. I'll say what I feel. And I'll try to represent you, my audience, our community as best as I can. And if that means telling a few hard truths occasionally, so be it. Do you really see the club bringing Alonso in? I really don't know, dude. Like, I can see a world that's possible. It would have to involve him getting sacked by Madrid. Without a shadow of a doubt. You're not going to go in and poach him from Madrid. But if, let's say, Eddie, he got sacked by Madrid this month and Arna was still wobbling, I mean, I don't think it's the biggest leap, you know? And by the way, can I ask, am I right in what I said about us trying to say what you're thinking? You know, I'm not saying we get it right all the time, and I'm not saying my takes are always right. But I hope that you can see that we are sincere in what we do and say, and that we try to represent you and give you a voice. Because that's what this has all been about to me from day one. I felt like an outsider. I felt like my opinion didn't matter. I felt like I was irrelevant. And it bugged me, because we should all have a voice. Canary is the guy when the team is playing good football, like he has. But when it's gone bad, he's a little baby and it hurts. He's a confidence player, I think you're trying to say there, in a roundabout sort of way. And yeah, I agree with you. This is the only channel I watch religiously. Thank you. 100%. That's why we love this channel, said Billy. Thank you. Alf said, realistically, they ain't second slot. I think you're right, Alf, for what it's worth. I think from the owner's perspective, I think you're right. But unfortunately, I think it's the wrong decision. Clayton, it's purple, said, my husband's been with the channel. He's been with the channel since it was about 30k subscribers. We now listen regularly. Thank you to you both. Appreciate that. Ian said, I'm on this channel because of the honesty from you. Thank you. That all means a lot. I probably disagree with you more than I agree, but I still tune in though. And that's good, Paul. I really, really respect you for that. And I appreciate it. Because there's nothing wrong with us disagreeing. You know, we'll all disagree, but that's half the fun, isn't it? We get to debate it, we get to talk it out. And I'm always open to another viewpoint, mate. So thank you for that. I don't mind you disagreeing with me. That's grand. But, you know, at least I hope you know that when I say things, whether you agree or not, I'm being sincere when I say them. Itachi said, are we even in a position right now to sign big players being 12? Don't fucking say it again, dude. Oh, if I see the number 12 again. Sorry. Yes, we're better than this, all of us know, but why join us with no tactics? I thought about this the other day, and here's the best I can come up with. If you're a player like Antoine Semenyo or Marc Guehi, imagine you come in January and then things change and we start going in the right direction. Imagine the credit you're going to get in the bank and your stock and profile as a player is going to go up. Like if Marc Guehi comes in and we start keeping clean sheets, whether it's solely down to him or not, the optics of it would look great. So if you're a player like Semenyo, I'd be chomping at the bit to come in right now to Liverpool because you would feel you could make a real difference. But then again, I would say that, right? Looking for the positives in it as a Liverpool fan. Bootle Boy, third generation, true red. Love you, boss. Thank you, man. Every time I go over to Liverpool and I have a show over there, or, you know, I'm always really humbled by the support I get from Scousers over there. You know, I get a lot of grief online from people, and a lot of the time I genuinely question if these people pretending to be Scousers online are actual Scousers. Because when I go over there, a lot of the time people say some version of thank you for at least saying some things, you know, speaking up. That means so much to us. L Stew, how are we, my man? I argue because it's the way to form a sharp opinion. Oh, dude, I'm an argumentative person over anything. You know, I'll argue with my wife and kids about anything just because that's just who I am. I'm an argumentative type of dude, but I'm also a big softie underneath it all. Craig, lots of videos showing Mo failing to pass the verts in 6 or 7 scoring positions, only to take poor shots and miss. Is he being overly selfish? So, Vince, for the first time since I started doing this channel this season, yes, he's been selfish. And I think it's a fine line. Now you do my head in, but listen, because you're funny, keep it up. Well, you're watching, so I'm winning one way or the other, Joe. I think this season he is being selfish, but it's a fine line between being selfish and not being selfish. And the line is usually whether the ball goes in the net or not. So, in years gone by, maybe I wasn't seeing some of this because Mo was scoring. And now we ain't as much. And you're right, I can think of 3 or 4 occasions where Wirtz or others should have been passed to. And there was a piece we brought up the other day from Germany that basically said something along the lines of what you've said, that Wirtz is being shafted by Salah because he's not squaring the ball to him. Clayton said, we're pretty much all on the same wavelength whilst we sit at home screaming at the TV. Craig is saying the exact same thing. Good. My wife used to think that I was the only lunatic that shouted at the television watching football. I think as we've done this channel over the years, he's learned that there's actually a lot more Craig type lunatics out there. Blaze said, Liverpool don't care what you think. Yeah, but they do, mate. They do. If they don't care what I think, why are they reaching out to supporters clubs when I'm meeting them in America to ask what their business is with me if they don't care? They do care. But the thing is, mate, they should embrace me rather than shun me. Because deep down, my heart is in the right place. And I want the right things. And I care about the city and its people. So, look, I'm not entitled. I don't feel like they have to embrace me or not embrace me. But to say they don't care about my view is wrong. And I know this factually, and I can give you 3, 4, 5 reasons. But ultimately, I'm not in it to please them. I'm in it to please, I would say you, but you don't like me by the looks of it. I'm in it to please my audience, who I've built this relationship with. And whose opinion I value highly. And look forward to sharing and finding news from. Like, I've learned just as much as I hope I've given on this channel. I love it. So many times I finish these streams and I sit there and I decompress for a while. I think about other viewpoints that people have said, and then I try to challenge my own perceptions and ask, was X or Y right? Am I wrong about this? And then I go back and have a think about it and I look at it. And if I am, I'll be on here talking about why I got it wrong or why I think this person was right or why I'm right. Itachi said, believe me, the day Mo leaves Liverpool will be the day Wirtz will get world class. The legend, how are we? My Arsenal supporting friend said, my God, did Everton defend well? What a performance. So I only got to see the first half, so I didn't really see how penned in or not they were in the second half, but I won't lie, when I went on here and it was 1-0 to Everton, I fully expected United to finish the game 2 or 3-1. So incredible defensive performance. Jason said, sorry I'm late. Hope everything's good with yourself. Could you do a recap? Certainly. Just give me a couple of minutes, mate, and I'll run through the news from start to finish for you. Don't forget the preview for the PSV Eindhoven game is coming out at 10:45. David, how are we, dude? Nice to see you, as always. Thank you, sir, for dropping in. CSH28, how are you, my friend? Said, this isn't going to get any better. We're so slow and useless. Slot gets the chance to throw the entire season away. We don't see any difference. That's what bugs me, mate. It's salvageable now. And this is why I keep saying to Cara or anybody else, if there's something that you think we're not seeing that gives you some indication that this might be salvageable, other than vibes, I'm open. I'm all ears. But I think there's nothing tangible that I can think of that's showing we're going in the right direction. And that's the sad part for me and why I think it is time to part ways. Because I don't want to lose another season. You as fans don't get to get the money back for a season and your TV subscriptions or your jerseys or your season tickets or your individual one-off trips. You don't get to get paid for that or write that off. But players are still going to be paid their incredible salaries. The club's value is probably still going to keep going on the up and up because of TV revenues. Surely you have standards or we don't. Winning's important or it isn't. You know, it's not one or two defeats now and people are saying sack the manager. It is an absolutely catastrophic run of fixtures and results that are just not acceptable in any era at Liverpool, let alone after spending nearly £500 million winning the league last year. JJ, thank you, mate. Appreciate you. Have a good one. Malty said, I think Salah has always been an ego type player, has to be the centre of attention when you look at him. Mane. I agree, but I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing. Anybody at the level these guys operate at, whether you're a Ronaldo, a Messi, a Salah, you've got to have ego. You know? But remember somebody said to me earlier on that Kanade's great when everything's going great, but when it's not, he falls apart. I feel like that about Mo, but not on, like, everything's great when Mo's happy and everything's going well and everything's going cool in Mo's world. But when contract times are up or when things aren't going well, the vibe shifts very quickly into a more confrontational situation. And now is a time where he's not backing up his ability. And you would hope you'd have a manager that would acknowledge this and challenge him on it. Real talk, why would Edwards go to Ajax? There should be no way he would, mate. It's certainly not a step forward, is it? You know, he's basically in charge of Liverpool and has scope there to be looking at the multi-club model. It's a pretty influential and powerful role, so yeah, I don't see why you go to Ajax. Craig, would you like to see Big Ange? No, I wouldn't. But I'd love a chat with Big Ange. I'd love to pick his brain on football or something because I like Big Ange, but I just don't think he'd be the solution to our inability to keep a clean sheet. Is Chiesa in your starting 11 on Wednesday? No, because there'd be no point in me putting him in the starting 11 because we all know he ain't going to be in the starting 11. So that's why I didn't put him in. Like, should he be in it? Yes. But we know he won't be. I'd argue Salah and Klopp never liked each other. I don't know. I haven't got a clue. I'd be just guessing. So honestly, I don't know the answer to that. I've said this. Yes, I think it was yesterday. If you're Arne Slot right now, after you've won the league and Mo starts falling away a bit, it's probably the right time to take him on and challenge him and bench him and send out a message. Because you're sending out a message to somebody whose time at the club's coming towards an end naturally in 18 months anyway. So it's, if you're going to make a stand and try to stamp your authority in the dressing room, that feels like a possible win. But by not doing it and results are still shit, now it's looking bad on the manager because he looks weak. Any chance of Canada January sale? I haven't got a clue. It seems like a lot of the clubs that want him on a free, so it looks unlikely. We know the MO with Real Madrid. They want players on frees. Don't know how Bayern are fixed or what their situation is, and I don't know if Paris Saint-Germain would have an interest or would want him in January. So truth is, mate, I haven't got a clue. Craig, do you see some truth in Cara saying Slot doesn't have the unconditional truth Klopp had? But he doesn't. That's very clear. Like I said, Klopp walked into a dressing room and said to players, my old midfield would have had the balls to win that. Can't see Arne doing that. I can see him going in there and, trying to figure it out tactically, but I don't know if he's as cutting or as ruthless. But if he isn't as ruthless, it's going to be him that ends up getting the sack. Right, I did promise somebody I'm going to run through the news, so let's do that before I finish up. If I can ask you a favour while I'm reading through this, if possible, please do hit that like button for me, and if you haven't subscribed, you know what to do. Right, so let's fly through the news, because there was quite a bit today. One story I haven't yet gotten to is that Netflix are going to consider bidding for Premier League TV rights, according to Martin Ziegler of The Times. And I actually would be alright about that, as long as the subscription costs don't start to fly up. Boxing on Netflix has been fairly straightforward, so if they came into football, as long as the subscription costs weren't ridiculous, I wouldn't mind. Right, so let's start off with this report from Christian Falk. It said Deo Upamecano appears to have ruled out a move to Liverpool. If the Bayern defender decides to leave Germany, his preferred destinations are Madrid and Paris Saint-Germain. Then, same journalist, Christian Falk, said Crystal Palace defender Marc Guehi is very close to signing for Liverpool. Also, he said Liverpool would prefer to sell Ibrahim Konate in January if he's not prepared to sign the new deal. Another piece from Caught Offside said Liverpool have offered Konate a new contract, but he is yet to respond. Then there was a piece from Fixtures that said Liverpool are reportedly considering a record £140 million bid for Portugal and Paris Saint-Germain midfielder João Neves. The 21-year-old has been in excellent form this season and is PSG's top scorer with 6 goals in 10 games. The Athletic said Alexander Isak looked like a passenger for Liverpool against Nottingham Forest, and right now Liverpool cannot afford passengers. Right now, his first few months as the Premier League's most expensive footballer could hardly have gone worse. Paul Joyce said Arne Slot retains the backing of the Liverpool hierarchy. There's an appreciation of what a summer of transition entails, from having a settled team to a big influx of new players on the back of significant outgoings. But Liverpool cannot keep losing. Then we had Dario AS saying Real Madrid are very worried about the broken relationship between the players and the coaching staff. Peter O'Rourke has said that Liverpool coach Giovanni van Bronckhorst is under consideration for the vacant managerial role at Indonesia. Next up, Paul Joyce said Joe Gomez could play against PSV Eindhoven on Wednesday given the strain on resources. Graham Bailey writes, FSG have no plans to replace Arne Slot as Liverpool head coach despite a terrible run of form. Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes, who run football operations at Anfield, remain firmly behind the Dutchman, whom they appointed. Netflix will consider bidding for some TV rights, writes Martin Ziegler. Mario Cartagena and The Athletic have written that Vinicius Jr. has informed Real Madrid president Florentino Perez he does not intend to renew his contract, while his relationship with Xabi Alonso remains difficult. Talks over an extension have officially stalled. Fabrice Hawkins writes that Liverpool have made an advanced approach for Paris Saint-Germain winger Bradley Barcola. Romano said Arne Slot has the full support from the Liverpool hierarchy. They're expecting better performances soon. Are they? That's fucking great. I'm expecting to wake up tomorrow with a 12-inch penis, but, we'll see if either of those work out. Ben Jacobs writes that A22 Sports, promoters of the European Super League, have initiated a compulsory mediation process with UEFA, which is required under Spanish law. The only appropriate step going forward is to seek compensation for the damages suffered as a result of UEFA's ongoing illegal behaviour. A22 has also written to UEFA demanding pre-authorisation of its so-called Unify League within 8 weeks. Then we had Rio Ferdinand and his stupid take on Arne Slot getting significantly less scrutiny than Amorim. This report said Ajax are considering FSG CEO football Michael Edwards for the vacant technical director role. Then we went through the Jamie Carragher calling out Arne Slot, saying it's a big mess, talking about all the things that are wrong, but then bottling it at the end and saying, but I wouldn't be in the Slot out camp whatsoever. Then we gave you an example of an article about Brendan Rodgers 10 years ago at Liverpool that said Brendan Rodgers backed by FSG to walk through the storm, and then he was sacked. Virgil van Dijk was named in the FIFA Pro Men's 11, and he said this: it's an amazing feeling to be part of the FIFA Pro World 11 again. Recognition from your fellow players is the best recognition I think you can get, because you play against each other, and obviously they go through a lot of things that we go through as well in the current game. Any recognition is great, but together with the PFA Team of the Year, I think those two, when you get voted for by your fellow players, means a lot. It's something that I don't take for granted. Then we went through the Sky piece that really laid out some of the issues. Mohamed Salah started well and quickly faded against Nottingham Forest. Federico Chiesa generated more XG value than Mohamed Salah and played 68 fewer minutes. Isak was non-existent. By the time he was hooked for Chiesa, he'd lost every one of his 7 duels that he'd contested. He's the only Liverpool player in the Premier League era to be on the losing side in each of his first 4 starts. Then there was another bit of information that talked about Liverpool crowd getting uneasy and being audibly fed up. How can a team with 74% possession concede enough chances to ship 3 goals? Then we went with the fixtures, the next fixtures, which is PSV Eindhoven on Wednesday, then West Ham on Sunday. Next up, December the 3rd, Sunderland away, December the 6th, Leeds away, and December the 9th, Inter Milan. Sashi Tavolieri said Liverpool remain in pole position to sign Marc Guehi. The Premier League champions are the only club truly positioned to recruit the defender as early as this winter. Crystal Palace asking price would be around €40 million. Breaking, multiple Real Madrid players now want Xabi Alonso fired. The relationship with the coach is broken. Some important executives now believe it's necessary to fire him, writes George C. Picon or Jorge Picon. So that's pretty much all the news. This one from Jason. Sent an email with a story that'll make you smile. When you get a chance, might be good time for a smile. Thank you, Jason. I'll certainly have a look at it, mate. Appreciate you. I always need something to make me smile at the minute, bro. Season, every time we had a bad first half, the boys always came back fighting strong. This season, that response isn't there at all. I would agree, my friend. I would agree. But look, again, I've got to reiterate before we finish up tonight, we all want this to work. We all want Arnold to figure it out. We all want the team to get better. But we can't just go on vibes or hope. There has to be tangible signs that it's happening. Christina, so Craig, while I agree with you about the manager's job, sort of the players, would you also agree it's up to the leadership group to hold Salah and tell him what he's doing wrong? Of course. You would have to have those blunt conversations in the dressing room or behind closed doors. Yeah, I absolutely agree, Christina. Yusu Kangan said, Craig, for me, if it was possible, I'd love Luis Enrique. He knows football and he knows how to get players away from mistakes. I'd love Luis Enrique, and I dare say many Liverpool fans would. But would you really be able to get him out of Paris Saint-Germain? You know, he's having a pretty successful stint over there at the minute. So, yeah, I don't think it's possible. Right. Ladies and gents, I'm going to go. I'll see you tomorrow. The preview will be out in 10 minutes. So if you get a chance, check it out. Go through my predicted 11, give you my score prediction for the game against PSV. And if I don't see you tomorrow, a reminder, we'll be starting our coverage from 6:45 on Wednesday for the game. And yeah, have a good one. Thank you so much for dropping in tonight as always. If you can, hit that like button for me on the way out and stay safe.